Some books spark a revolution not with dense, complicated arguments, but with really simple questions and answers. That's exactly what we're looking at today. Martin Luther's Small Catechism. It's one of the key texts of the Protestant Reformation, and we're going to dig into what makes it so incredibly powerful.
Okay, so let's dive right in. The first thing you're seeing here isn't some dusty old manuscript that's locked away for scholars. This is the Small Catechism, and this particular version is in the Telugu language from India. And that right there tells you everything. From the very beginning, this book was meant to be a practical guide for parents teaching their kids, a tool for everyday people to really understand the basics of their faith.
And that kind of brings us to the biggest question, doesn't it? To really get this book, you have to ask, why would Martin Luther, a guy in the middle of this massive religious and political storm, hit pause on everything to write what is, basically, a simple Q&A guide for families?
So here's how we're going to break it down. We're going to walk through the Catechism's really brilliant structure. We'll see how it builds from basic rules all the way to daily practice. And we'll explore why its simple design has been so effective for, well, almost 500 years.
All right, first things first, a guide for the people. Before we get into the what, we really have to understand the why. So let's set the stage a bit and look at the world this little book was born into.
So picture this. It's the early 1500s, a time of major religious chaos. The Protestant Reformation is kicking off, challenging centuries of tradition. Martin Luther goes around visiting local churches and is apparently just shocked by how little ordinary people and even some pastors knew about basic Christian beliefs. So his solution, in 1529, was this guide, a way to get clear, simple instruction directly into people's homes, totally bypassing the usual gatekeeper.
And just look at this table of contents. It shows you the book's logic, and it's brilliant. This isn't just a random pile of teachings, it's a roadmap. It starts with the ground rules, the 10 Commandments, then it moves to core beliefs, then prayer, and then finally, how to put it all into practice. Let's walk through it.
So where does he start? With the Big Ten. The Catechism kicks off with the 10 Commandments, but he doesn't present them as just a list of don'ts. Instead, they're framed as positive guides for how to live a life of faith and how to love your neighbor.
Now, look at the structure on these pages. It's incredibly simple, and that is completely on purpose. First, you get the commandment, and then, right below it, you get the same exact question every single time. And this right here, this is the secret sauce for the entire book. This one little question, what does this mean? This phrase is the engine that drives the whole catechism. It turns every rule from just a command you have to follow into an active lesson. It makes you stop and think about what it actually means for your life. For instance, take this commandment. It immediately breaks down what it means in the real world. So it's not just about not swearing. It's about actively doing the opposite, calling on God's name when you're in trouble, praying, praising Him. It flips a negative rule into a positive call to action.
Okay, so once he sets up a framework for how to live, the Catechism then shifts to what to believe. And that brings us to the core of the faith, which is all about the Apostles' Creed, a really foundational statement of Christian belief.
Now, he doesn't just throw the creed out there and say, hey, memorize this. No way. He breaks it down into 3 articles, one on the Father and creation, one on the Son and redemption, and one on the Holy Spirit and sanctification, or being made holy. And of course, for each part, he uses that same what does this mean for me.
And the result is pretty amazing. You have this really complex theological idea, right? Like the role of the Holy Spirit. And suddenly, it becomes intensely personal and easy to understand. It's not some abstract doctrine anymore. It's about what the Holy Spirit does for me. So, from what to believe, the next logical step is, well, how do you talk to God? So the Catechism moves right into the most famous prayer in Christianity, the Lord's Prayer, and gives it the same deep dive treatment. He doesn't just skim it. He dissects the prayer piece by piece, from the intro all the way to the end, every single line. Each petition is pulled apart and explained, showing you the deeper meaning behind every request. And this is a perfect example of how it works. Take the line, "Give us this day our daily bread." We've all heard it, but what does it mean? Well, according to the Catechism, daily bread is everything you need for life. Not just food, but a house, a family, good government, even good weather. It just masterfully connects the spiritual act of prayer to the very real, tangible parts of everyday life. Okay, so the last parts of the Catechism are all about application. This is where the rubber meets the road, bridging the gap between what you believe and how you actually live it out in the church and in your daily life. So here, he tackles these major church rituals, or sacraments, and just lays out their purpose in plain language.
Baptism, that's a one-time thing. God's promise, the beginning of faith. Holy Communion, that's a repeated act meant to give you forgiveness and make your faith stronger. The distinctions are made super simple and clear.
And if you thought that was practical, check this out. It gets even more specific. There's literally a table of duties that uses Bible verses to give guidance to people in all kinds of roles: citizens, parents, workers, you name it. It's all about showing that faith isn't just a Sunday thing. It's for every part of your life.
All right, let's zoom out for a second and look at the big picture. Why are we still talking about this little book written way back in 1529? Why has it lasted so long and been translated into so many languages?
I mean, seriously, think about it. For nearly 500 years, this book has been a go-to teaching tool. That kind of longevity is just remarkable. So what's the secret?
Well, the secret is its design. It is an absolute masterclass in how to teach complex ideas. It creates this powerful learning loop that we've seen over and over. First, you state a principle. Then you ask that simple, brilliant question, what does this mean? And finally, you give a clear, practical answer. It's a framework that's simple, it's repeatable, and it is unbelievably effective.
And that's really where I want to leave you. Beyond all the specific religious content, Luther's Small Catechism is this timeless lesson in how to communicate effectively. In our world of constant information overload, what can we learn from this 500-year-old Q&A guide about how to cut through all the noise and pass on the ideas that really truly matter?